Hi, Amit.
Yeah,
Amit,
hello. You hear me,
Hi,
yeah? Your
Amit.
voice.
I'm audible?
I hear you. You hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
very good evening, Amit, from India. So, guys, now we have a prominent speaker and the PMO leader, a strategic leader, and the PMO founder, Mr. Ahmed from UAE. And he will give some great insight how PMO and the neuroscience can collaborate and build a PMO powerhouse. So before that, I can introduce him, and he serves one of the judging panel committee of PMO Global Award or PMOGA. So I'm very happy to see you, Amit, and welcome to GABAC. So floor is over to you, and you can explore. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much indeed, pleasure having me, Dr. Malisha. So it's been a great privilege and honor to be here today in such an exceptional event
Go
and
ahead, Amit.
conference.
Best of
Hopefully,
luck.
yes, thank you so much. I appreciate. So, okay, everyone. Hi, how are you doing? So this is me, Ahmed Jadelrab. So I'm a founder from PMO Consulting. So my one single mission and what I hope to achieve today for you is really shifting your mindset around a PMO kind of mindset, from a neuroscience lens or standpoint, you know, and the reason why I have a very compelling, a personal story I would love to share with you before we deep dive into the presentation. So 7 years ago, my mom started battling Parkinson or movement disorder disease. So watching really someone you love losing control of their body and mind changes how your leadership could possibly be. And at that time, I was leading one of my first PMO transformations, you know, work. And I realized something really powerful, If a leader is unstable, the system, the state of mind is unstable, that moment pushed me to develop a leadership model that really helps PMO leaders today to stabilize their internal system phase spiritually, mentally, physically, and even emotionally before attempting any transformation, journey or driving any sort of journey, any transformation journey to any organization. So that being said, I would like to take you through the first slides, which is really, most PMO leaders today do the same thing over and over again under the same pressure. The jumping straight, very straightforward, try to building processes, template tools, and methodologies. They believe the structure will automatically create trust, will create momentum, to help them to move the needle forward. You know, but here's the truth: executives and key stakeholders that don't trust templates. Executive trust leaders. So think about it from this kind of lens. Influence does not really start with the dashboard, template processes, and more progress you put into the mission. Influence starts with your inner system, your inner state. So if you are thinking is reactive, stress, and defensive, your communications became unclear. Okay, so your decision became slower and the stakeholder feel it immediately and they can sense it. So the PMO doesn't really fail because of tool and template and processes and governance. You know, the PMO fails because leadership readiness was never addressed first. So today, I want to walk you through a very simple but powerful idea and notion behind before building a high performing PMO, you must build a high readiness leader. So in this session, we will explore together why neuroscience matters for a PMO leadership and the SMP readiness model. And I'm going to take you through how leaders' readiness influences stakeholder trust. And last not least, how this connect to business strategy and a business-driven PMO transformation. This is not a theory. This is a based or on years of very successful transformation work across organizations in the United Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, and even globally. So when we talk about transformation leadership, we usually focus on methods, but the neuroscience tells us something different. Human decision making is driven primarily by emotion, perceived safety, trust signals, cognitive clarity, strategic clarity. So when a stakeholder evaluate your PMO, they're not just evaluating your processes. They really evaluating you, your tone, your confidence, your clarity, and your emotional regulation. That means leadership readiness became as a strategic capability, not just a personal one. So today I'm going to walk you through a very practical, proven sort of like a leadership model. I call it the SMP, spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional readiness. And we're going to build together, or I'm going to share with you sort of like a template or action thinking tool, that you could really help you how to take the action to stabilize your emotional, spiritual, mental, physical state of mind so that you could possibly drive a successful PMO transformation journey inside your organization. So, and for any sort of like a transformation journey or a project, for instance, if you are a project manager, strategy delivery, or a transformation office or agile transformation office, SMO, TMO, PMO, you name it, wherever the name. However, since you're driving a business transformation journey and you're driving change, you're dealing with different key stakeholders. Some of them, the lover, the hater, they don't care. And I often call them the champion, the blockers, and they don't care. So to drive very successful relationship or a journey, you have to build a relationship with those kind of folks and stakeholder groups. You need to understand who they are, what they need, so that you could develop the best communication and engagement and buying strategy, so that would really could possibly support you to be successful. So before designing any sort of like a solution or go assessing the current situation and understand the reality and the culture, the dynamic, the appetite for the change, whatever the case, you need to align with your internal system. You've got to, evaluate your inner mindset, the energy, the emotional intelligence, all this kind of state of mind capabilities. So the neuroscience tells you, are you under pressure? So the brain defaults to survival mode. This is the normal situation. When that happens, we became defensive and our communications became very poor. So we make short-term decisions. Sound familiar? Yeah. That happens every day in our transformation environment. So the great PMO leaders develop the ability to regulate their internal system. And the reason why, calm leaders create confident organizations. So now let me break it down. What is the SMP is really all about and what it really mean when it comes to PMO transformation journey. So this is the leadership model I developed over the last, decade of PMO transformation journey, and even working with different PMO leaders. These are the 4 pillars or foundational, components that really help you to have a very stable leadership capabilities. As I said, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, So simply speaking, spiritual means you have a clear purpose and direction for the PMO. The PMO align with the biggest picture strategy. The mental means you have the clarity, you have the strategic focus, while the physical, you have the resilience, the energy, the stamina, you know, while the emotional means you have the empathy, you have the ability to develop a positive relationship, you have sort of like a mental, an emotional relationship intelligence, how to navigate through the different key stakeholders. So together, these dimensions create what I call a leadership stability, or the S&P leadership, you know, stability. So, and this is kind of leadership stability. It's really a leadership drives transformation success, because this model is also used in my own PMO leadership readiness, diagnostic, to help leader assess where they are and what they need to really empower and strengthen their leadership capability. I'm going to take you later through the thinking tool or the sheet, what sort of score you need to have sort of like a stable, S&P readiness leadership profile in place. Okay, and if there is any sort of like gap, what you need to do to really to protect and to stabilize those 4 dimensions of a leadership capability. So let me give you an example. So the S&P, it's really aligning the 4 dimensions of spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional readiness to the organizational impact. So as a leader who driving a journey, helping organization to move from E to B. And by the way, my one mission is really all about, and what I've been doing for the last decade, is really helping PMO leaders drive a business driven, a PMO transformation journey, breakthrough results, help them to maximize result and returns and improve the ROI across different value stream, and really help them to prove a measurable ROI, whatever the case. So a leader's state of mind directly shape the external outcomes. Think about it this way. If you are really emotionally sympathetic and balanced, that really signal you fostering trust, and you're going to earn the PMO leadership sponsorship. So if you are mentally scattered, you often project confusions. The PMO lacks direction. On the other hand, if you are mentally really unfocused leader, this really meaning stakeholder distrust. They're gonna distrust you, okay, because you are not really stable when it comes to mental clarity and resilience, okay. So a PMO leader who's really lacking focus or mental capability, constantly gonna shift priorities, is gonna fail to communicate clearly, overwhelm teams with changing requirements. As a result, a stakeholder losing trust, and the PMO seen as unreliable. So one practice I recommend you today, and I often recommend to PMO leaders, is monthly readiness check. Asking yourself every single month or every single cadence, am I mentally focused? Am I emotionally balanced? Do I have the physical energy to lead effectively? Am I aligned with my leadership purpose? So all the time you get to connect your state of mind, your readiness or leadership readiness to the biggest picture impact and business value. So all the time you need to align with that kind of big picture, because these kind of questions really help leaders stay grounded during the transformation program. So the goal is not really awareness. The goal is action. You need to take action, unshakable action, And the reason why every leader should define 3 actions per quarter, okay, to really to help you to understand where you are and how we're going to empower, your leadership profile. For example, improving mental focus through structured planning, and strengthening the emotional intelligence through stakeholder listening, and or even improve the physical resilience through better work habits. So small action really create a powerful leadership impact. And now let's connect all the pieces of the puzzle. Over the last 9 months or 1 year nearly, I developed a business-driven PMO model. It's sort of like a 5 transformation program that really help PMO leaders position themselves as a strategic business partner, strategy navigator, supporting the holistic value chain, not only supporting the strategy execution side of the picture, while looking at the strategy formulation, strategy execution, and even strategy realization. So to drive and to prove a measurable ROI within 90 days or one single sprint cycle. So I'm going to show you where the SMP or the leadership readiness, where it fits within this kind of 5 steps framework. So the SMP is really the center. It's the core of a successful business transformation journey. Okay, give me a sec. I need to sip one single water. I was fasting just now. We're breaking breakfast. So this is the month of Ramadan. So just now the azan is okay. As I said, build the PMO powerhouse foundation is all about empowering and strengthening your SMP, spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional readiness. So you need to have this kind of stable state of mind, readiness to drive a successful journey before to going make assessment or putting governance and framework and so on. So the second step within the PMO, minimum viable progress value model, or I call it the PMO MVM, you get to scan the current reality, the current situation, understand the PMO value proposition, the why, the purpose, okay? Undertake some sort of different assessment with different key stakeholders, okay? And the key legitimate rationale or reason behind this kind of assessment, you build a relationship quickly, you build the momentum, the traction, and assess the current reality without going assuming, guys, this is solution. I know I've been in X company, I've developed this. No, you have to take them through the same, you have to assess them, asking the question from their words. They're going to give you the right, pain point, business challenges. Okay. So you don't need to assume anything. So you got to give them what they want before give them what you assume they need. So this is really a magical step in this framework. You have to assess the current reality. Okay. Build a positive relationship with the key stakeholder before even go jumping and design any sort of solution. So the third or the second step, I mean the third, because the first one is the SMP, building the powerhouse foundation. Okay, the second is scanning. The third is designing. Okay, when it comes to designing the PMO value delivery, you need to take the key stakeholders through 7-layer deep why. Simply speaking, before you define a solution, you need to understand the underlying causes or, for those kind of symptoms, because most of the cases, when we undertake the assessment, majority of those kind of pain point and business challenges are symptoms, not the real issues. So you need to ask why 7 times or 5 times till to reach to underlying cause about this kind of symptoms, so that when you develop the solution, you develop a permanent solution that became a permanent remedy to the pain points. Then you craft 1-year implementation roadmap where it articulate all the solution, the business. You put the solution, you put the capabilities, the timeline, the metric, the impact, the business value, who would be impacted, okay? And you put sort of like a business metric that really help you to define or to measure how you will be successful. So it has to be tied back to those kind of solution and service offering. This is 1-year implementation roadmap for the leadership, Then you put sort of like a PMO presentation strategy for now. You take the key stakeholder and the business, the PMO sponsor, guys. Now I have undertake the assessment. We design the root causes of the issues. We design the solution for as a root cause of the issues. Okay. And this is 1-year implementation roadmap where it has all the solutions, all the capabilities, all the business impact, the value, the timelines, when we're going to implement them. Okay. And the metric, how we're going to measure success. I need from you to prioritize, to select one single MBV, one single solution or capability. And this is the reason why I call it MBV, minimum viable progress. You're not going to boil the ocean. You're not going to select the whole solution, implement it in one single quarter. No. The main reason for this kind of PMO transformation strategy presentation is for the leadership to prioritize, to approve the 1-year roadmap, to confirm This is the reality. This is the solution for our pain points and tied back to their challenges all the time. Okay, in their words. Then you launch one single MBV or one single solution. Okay, and you need to develop or to impress sort of like an organizational change management. You need to bring people with you through the change. Everyone who would be possibly impacted by this kind of journey or this solution, you need to bring them. You need to communicate. You need to market. You need to own it, because if you didn't really own it, someone will own it for you. So I'm going to share with you in the chat or later the PMO leadership profile assessment tool is assessing the 5 dimensions: spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional readiness. So it really helps you to assess where you are and to put the right action to really to stabilize your leadership profile. So that would be with driving a successful journey. So let me leave you with one challenge. Before you improve your PMO, you need to improve what? You need to improve your leadership readiness. And all the time, you need to ask yourself, where do I need to empower and strengthen my mindset? Because the mindset, trust me, is a very critical component to drive a very successful transformation journey. Okay, so where do I need greater clarity? And asking again, where do I need stronger and greater resilience? Because the most powerful transformation tool in your PMO is not a framework, it's you. Thank you so much indeed. It's been a pleasure be here today. And if this topic really resonates with you and you want to explore how to empower a PMO leadership readiness and to build a business-driven PMOs that deliver measurable and sustainable, undeniable business value, I would be more than happy to connect, and to continue the conversation with you, because the future of the PMOs, trust me, is not about more processes and template and governance. It's about stronger leaders driving strategic impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. It seems like Dr. Okay, ready, he's there. Okay, so we were all up to just ask you a question, but I will let Dr. Mahesh go ahead.
Yeah, but it was a no, really
I hope you like it,
good.
guys.
Yeah, it was a really good topic. No, PMO and the neuroscience. So I am also
Yeah.
PMO person. So I have few questions. I will not disturb you more. So
Okay.
no, I always struggle in my professional life. No, a PMO is always limited up to make MIS and do some PPT and all. So how that no? Okay, anyway, we know the PMO value ring, what PMI, PMOG had done. So how we
Mhm.
can collaborate this neuroscience and the PMO value ring? How we can educate the senior management? What is real PMO?
Yeah. The shift is very simple, and this is a very good question. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, to be honest, I've been part for the PMO Global Alliances for very quite, more than 7 years in a row. I really helping to evaluate the PMO globally, so through this kind of pitching against the PMO Global Awards. But to be honest, I haven't taken the PMO value ring myself. I haven't go for it. But from my humble experience, the PMO today is not about more templates and progress processes and progressy and putting more governance. You need to be agile, nimble, and change capable. You need to shift your mindset, because you're really driving the company to the better future. You're really having the keys to the castle. So you need to link or to shift your mindset of the biggest picture impact and the business value. Because in my humble definition, the one mission or the main objective for any sort of PMO transformation successful journey is really driving business strategy, breakthroughs, result, and maximize returns and improve the ROI as quickly as possible. So it's not about putting more progressy processes, template, holding holding the stick like I'm a police. This kind of admin red tape and really position the PMO in a weak positioning. So the PMO is really highly positioned role. You should earn and keep your seat at the strategic business table if you're really shifting your mindset about the biggest picture impact and a business value, rather than template processes and this kind of admin related one. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So how much
Pleasure.
is it? I know really interesting topic. So first time seeing the PMO and the neuroscience, and
Yeah,
really great evening with you. And
yeah,
thanks for your presence and thanks for
yeah.
joining.
And trust me, this is really something. I'm not claiming I'm expert in neuroscience. I'm just reflecting my personal story with my mom. She was battling Parkinson and movement disorder, and I was when at that time when she really developed the Parkinson. I bring her from Sudan. I decided, man, I have to take care of my mom because she means everything to me. So I've seen her every single night. She went through a lot of agitation, anxiety, and sleep disorder. She couldn't sleep. And even this kind of feeling affected my mental and spiritual, physical, and emotional. All this kind of is state of mind and inner system has totally affected. And I keep asking myself, how am I going to control and stabilize my inner system? Because I'm really driving a very complex, PMO transformation journey. It was back then with a construction company. So I did my best possible thinking through what shall I do to really control this kind of SMP leadership profile. Thank you so much. Pleasure having me. And
Yeah, big
God bless.
thanks to you. The big thanks to you. Anyway, something no, we can learn new thing. So definitely we
Yeah,
will follow this neuroscience approach. Thank you. Thanks a lot, and thanks for joining with us. Have a great day. A good evening,
yeah, likewise indeed. Thank you so much indeed. And thank you so much indeed,
and happy
Selvi.
Ramadan too. Happy Ramadan too. Enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, I need to go run and eat. It's been fasting for 18 hours now.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye
thank
bye.
you. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye. Bye bye.